Yeah, to me, it sounds like what you're trying to create is something like the original, I mean, like Bitcoin, where you have this coin, it incentivizes mining, which is needed for the network to have security. But you want to do it for kind of like other things in MakerDAO. So describe kind of the whole end game plan. And I know there's like 4 phases: a rebrand, sub DAO farming, voter rewards, governance, AI tools. So why don't you just walk us through each of these phases?
Well, and first of all, I mean, it's exactly the Bitcoin thing. That's exactly what we would like to go for, in the sense that that's what we can't be exactly like Bitcoin, but we often call it like a Bitcoin, like endgame. The name endgame is chosen because we want to reach this like Bitcoin-like state of a high level of ossification and certainty and reliability of like the future state of the system, right? And yeah, so the way we implement all this, I mean, all this stuff I was talking about, is basically through these like 4 major different aspects of the alignment engineering. So the first one is just like the branding and the design of the system. And this, I guess, is maybe like, I mean, on one hand, this is going to matter a lot for growth. And of course, growth is like a really, I mean, it's essential. I mean, the whole point of this is we want to make the system super robust so that we can grow it really large and it will not fall apart. So, I mean, it would be pointless to do it all without also making sure we focus on growth. And the reason why we believe there's a big opportunity for a new brand is because basically the original brands they were kind of made up without too much thought being put into it, right? And the big problem is there's 2 of them. There's like 2 separate brands. And they're actually great for like, I mean, they're great for like sort of classic crypto, and also very important to note that they will stick around, right? So nothing will actually happen to MKR or DAI. But there will be like this new sort of third umbrella brand that will include a new stablecoin and a new governance token. And they will then have kind of the same brand, you know, so it's not 2 completely separate sort of things that you don't naturally associate with each other, but rather it's like the brand and then like the DAO for the brand, basically. I mean, one of the things we noticed was that we would go to events and people would be like, yeah, I use DAI. I love DAI. Oh, it's great. And then they'd be like, what the hell is Maker? I have no idea. I've never heard of it. I have no idea what that is, right? Like, there's so many people like that. And actually also, to like extent, the other way around, because MKR holders are like, I mean, MKR right now is like a very unique token in crypto, in that we have this like super low supply and just like a kind of a very sort of a culture that has always been very focused on like being very rational and sort of this like risk management focus. And that's just also resulted in that a lot of the holders of MKR token aren't necessarily DAI users, or even like that much of like regular crypto users. But there's like this very sort of unique and specific type of MKR ecosystem participant. And we really hope to change that, because that is also, I mean, getting more overlap between the users and those who govern the system. That is by itself also, I mean, a key step of alignment engineering, right? Because now you naturally get an alignment where, I mean, the people who can run the system, they're much more likely to use it. So they're much more likely to like think about what do the users want and how do we keep them safe? And that's going to inform their decisions.
So basically what you mean is like compound, Uniswap, uni. Is that what you're getting at? That like literally just the names need to be more similar?
Yeah. But I mean, you could think of, I mean, but it could be something, right? I mean, there's like compound and comp, and then there'd also need to be something like comp USD, right? That's sort of in our case, we have both a stable coin and a governance token that have to be very similar. And I mean, and the big challenge right now is like, if you're trying to describe the whole ecosystem, there's actually not really a word for that, right? Like, I mean, the closest would be MakerDAO, but the most important part of the ecosystem is DAI, and that's not even contained in the name MakerDAO, right? And then not to, I mean, I could go on about, I've got all these like sort of, I mean, all the kind of obvious issues that came up many years later when we realized this name is actually really sticky and you know, it pops up everywhere and it's used a lot in different contexts. And ultimately it was not designed with that much foresight. So I basically think that MKR and DAI are great brands for like sort of crypto insiders because they have this history and they're sort of classic brands, right? So they're very valuable and need to be, you know, maintained and nurtured and serve their niche basically. But for this major push towards growth, towards actually breaking the stagnation of DeFi and crypto that we're in now, getting new users involved. Get people to stop losing hope in crypto and stop seeing it as just a giant scam, but instead see some kind of opportunity, something exciting to get into. That's basically, it's the right moment to then come out with like a much more well thought through brand that can serve this role of like being the vehicle for all these new features. All the later stages of Endgame basically. And then also just be like simpler. And this is kind of simplicity is sort of it can be hard to see how that's even possible, right? Because Maker is famously complex, right? But what our approach is, we want to be friendly but complex, I guess you can say, right? So, and I always keep comparing it to like gamification, like a video game, right? If you start playing a new video game, it could be massively complex. There could be so many things, but when you're playing it, it's fun and you're not overwhelmed because it keeps you on like the right, keeps you on the right track, right? It slowly lets you delve deeper into the world if you want that, or just you can just stay in the very beginning and just never get into any of the complex stuff and not feel like you're doing something wrong, which I think is kind of the problem with Maker often today, is that it's like either you just die and you don't even know what Maker is, or like you try to understand what Maker is and you feel like you feel like you're not even welcome.
But one thing is like you're calling it a rebrand, but you're keeping the original brands and then just launching 2 new tokens, right? Which is a different sort of thing. Like why not just rename MKR and die?
Well, so I would say it's a rebrand in the sense that the website will change, for instance, right? So it's more like the overarching brand of what it is will change. You actually can't really rename tokens. It's very difficult to try to do so because they have they've got like this sort of identifier on chain that determines a name. That's one thing. The other thing is, there's going to be a lot of people who will just like freak out, who will generally get a heart attack, right, thinking that their money is lost or something. So you'd never. We consider that, but in practice, it's just the risks, the unknowns of trying to do that are very severe, I think. And then finally, on top of that, there's a lot of, there's 5 billion DAI in circulation, right? There's a lot of users that like that, and that's what they're familiar with. That's what they like to use. There's no reason why they should be disturbed, right? And for MKR, I think, some people, they think it's super cool that it's this like super low supply token. And it's just like, it's sort of an OG token, right? And similarly, I don't think that there's any reason to kind of mess with that. What we can do is, because we're offering so many new features, and all of these new features are growth focused, in particular the sub-DAO farming, which we'll talk about in just a second, right? But basically we can be like, look, you can stay with the old system and no one's going to mess with you, and everything will be safe and nothing's going to happen to your money. And if you want to try to upgrade to basically what is just a new brand, same security, same governance, same guarantees as the system has always offered you, then there's all these new features that you can access, but it's entirely optional, and you can go back again, right? So you can switch from DAI to this new stablecoin, and if you don't like it, you can just switch right back, and it's completely risk-free, right? So this, I think, is crucial in making sure that there's nobody who who gets more confused or overwhelmed by it. It's gotta be fun, right? It's gotta feel simple, and it should never feel like you're getting stressed out and you rather just do something else in this overwhelming, complicated crypto stuff, right?
All right. So